sorry to.
So with that change, do we have an approval of last month's minutes?
I motion that we approve last month's minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, minutes are secured. Next order of business, let's move to short announcements. Does anybody in the audience have anything?
Good evening. My name is Robert Stark. I'm the president of the Mountain Lions. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the community for the support given for the recent crab feed, which was added a ballpark, which is absolutely added a ballpark. Fantastic. And we thank the community for the support. And in regards to the general plan, because of the QR code, we had more people here from Sacramento, Santa Rosa, San Ramon, Hayward, who they Google crab feed, and then they find a place they haven't been, and they come to it. And they were just knocked out by it. So that was a real, very wonderful thing for people to come here from out of town and experience Cobb Mountain.
Great.
On March 28th, at 10 a.m., that's a Saturday, we'll be stuffing the 2,000 Easter eggs. We will be having the event at the Old Hoburg Golf Course, whatever you want to call it. There will be no bathrooms because there's no water there right now. So we will be renting blue rooms for that. And that will be on April 4th, will be the actual egg hunt. So bring the kids, but if you want to stuff plastic eggs, March 28th, 10 o'clock right here, be square. And we appreciate that. It'll be our, I don't know how many egg hunts we've had, but many, many, many of them over the years. So, and I hope that AT&T does the least amount of damage to the new roads. But the reality is, I've dug 100,000 feet of trench in this town. And there's a lot of rocks here. So we'll just hope for the best. That's all you can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Any other short announcements?
Hello, Cobb, Margot Kambara. In this season of general plan updates and land use designation reviews, there's going to be a land use issue that's going to be coming up to the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, April 7th. You may be interested in, and that is amendments to the cannabis ordinance. So of interest to neighbors might be, how are we going to deal with cannabis odor management? And that's a very thorny issue. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stark, did you also want to announce about April 3rd or 4th? Or was that, you mentioned March 28th and the stuffing. You did mention. Okay, that's right, you did.
Do we have a time on that?
Noon.
Noon? Okay. Any other short announcements? All right, I think we'll move on to public and board comment on non-agenda items.
I have some comments, but I think they'll fit in.
Okay.
Now's as good as time as any.
Well, I have some comments, but I think it'll fit in with Elliot's talk about forest health, so I'll just keep it for that
Okay.
and add what what he has to say.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. Any other public or board comment on non-agenda items? All right, moving right along. Now we're on to the regular annual nominations and elections. Nominations and elections to fill one seat on Cobb Area Council for the term that began on January 2026 and ends December 2027.
I nominate Joe Schneider.
I'll second that. Do you accept?
Do you accept?
I do.
All right, Joe Schneider's nominated and accepts. Is that all we have to do for that one?
Unless there's any other nominations.
Any other nominations? All right,
Let's vote.
let's vote. All in favor of Joe? Aye. All opposed? All right, thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, now we are here for one of the main events, the presentation of the Lake County General Plan.
It's true.
Thank you, Magdalena.
So you'll have to get your paperwork in.
Okay.
Do you
Yeah,
need
so-
a link to that?
Joe knows about the form he needs to fill out, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Mireya Turner, Community Development Director. The laptop worked just fine yesterday. Making our lives easier. So I'll just talk while they're doing that. The item on your agenda tonight is more of an introduction. We are on year 3 of a 3-year, ooh, that's encouraging, general plan update. We are updating county-wide elements of the general plan as well as all 8 local area plans, of which Cobb Mountain Communities is one of them. In year 1, we did all kinds of public meetings, passed out surveys, everything in the effort to collect information about what the residents thought was important about Lake County in various types of subject matters and what we wanted to see protected, preserved, encouraged, changed, and developed over the next 20 years. We took all of that input and created documents in year 2. Ooh, there's a general, yes, that's good. All right, if we could, Lisa, if you can click that screen icon up at the top left-hand side, a little to the right. Keep going, right there. We'll full screen it. And so I'm excited to present to you today the draft general plan. No problem. We'll just all examine and admire the beauty of Lake County on that slide. So we're going to go a little bit over, this is kind of a brief refresher because we haven't been to meetings in year 2. It was all about writing the documents and doing environmental analysis. And now in year 3, we're going over the documents to make sure that we haven't gotten anything wrong, that we haven't missed anything, or that we might need to tweak something. Go right ahead. Project overview and process, excellent. General plan. As a refresher, a general plan is a very important document to a jurisdiction, be it a city or a county. It is a 20-year visioning document for what the residents of the county want to see happen, either by the government or by various community groups. A number of different reasons that we want to make sure we really distill everything that there is that the county that the residents want to see happen in the county over the next 20 years. The law requires it to be updated every 20 years. It can be updated more often, but Lake County really hasn't done that, so we're looking at it as a 20-year project. Now, let's see. Oh, it also talks about future development. Anyway, I'm stumbling. I'm not as smooth right now. Okay, next slide. I'll get into the groove. Key changes. The last general plan was done in 2008. And at that point, it was mostly county-wide stuff. And we had separate documents called the local area plans, of which Cobb Mountain had one. There are 8 planning areas, and so we had 8 different local area plans. And they were updated at different times, and none of them have been recent. And so we couldn't really update the general plan without having current local area plans. Additionally, there had been some concern expressed from the community that we weren't valuing the local area plans as highly as we were the general plan. And so there are a couple changes, or the one significant change that you'll see is that we have, one, updated everything all at the same time. It's all in the same project. All the countywide elements as well as the local area plans are all getting updated now. And we're making the local area plans, instead of standalone documents, you know, like this document way over there, we're integrating them all into one overall general plan. And so each planning area will have its own element or chapter. We also changed the names of a few of them. We did have the Upper Lake Nice, but Lucerne's now going to go over to the Upper Lake Nice plan, and we're calling that North Lake. And then the shoreline communities, a number of which are not actually on the shoreline, we're calling those the North Lake community, or no, East Lake communities. There's also been a suggestion to call Lakeport's area plan, which includes North Lakeport all the way down through and into South Lakeport area, as well as all of Scotts Valley, which technically has an Upper Lake address. There's been a suggestion to call that West Lake, and so we're going to take that recommendation to the board at a later date. Go ahead. Our overall process. So we have talked, again, we sent out a number of surveys. We really tried to gather as much input about priorities, goals, things we saw that were outdated or changed or needed introduction. We took a look at the existing plans, again, for things that were outdated and could throw out, things we wanted to keep and things we wanted to promote even from the existing plans, and then identifying gaps. So that was taking a look at what may not have been in the existing plans that we really needed, we wanted to make sure that we highlighted. Next slide, please. Had a gob of community meetings. Boy, did we meet, especially in year one. The board established 8 different LAPACs, local area plan advisory committees, and 1 GPAC to look at the general plan advisory committee. We also had stakeholder groups, environmental justice focus group. This environmental justice, as we'll see in an upcoming slide, is a new element in this general plan. We also had a great meeting with just Spanish-speaking focus groups, and we had another really interesting meeting that we invited the ag communities to. GPAC, look at all that list of meetings. They met and they talked. And LAPAC, it only has 2 bullet points there, but it was about 41 LAPAC meetings. Next, please. Okay, this slide shows, again, how there was more switching of topics because since we were updating the local area plans, there were a number of things that had previously been countywide elements that we thought were actually better if we customized them in each planning area. And so some of those topics are circulation, environmental justice, of course, is new, and we wanted that customized per planning area. And then I think economic development, I don't know. Anyway, so we made sure that all the topics that are required by law, like housing, water resources, health and safety, circulation, open space, public facilities, those are required by law. Those are all still included. And then the ones that, like each jurisdiction can create their own elements to add to the general plan if that topic is of particular interest or priority to that jurisdiction. So we have 4. One of them is the agricultural resources, because we're an agricultural county. Geothermal resources, that covers the southern part where we have our geothermal fields. Aggregate resources management plan, which regulates the extraction of resources from our quarries and our creeks. And then what's the other one? There's one that I always forget. Anyway, it's in there too, somewhere. What is it? Darn, sorry. I look like a dork, but I can't remember.
Noise is on the bottom? Is that the one?
Noise, I think that's a required one. Noise focus, oh, well, let's go to the next slide, because I think we talk about, yeah. Okay, so this really word-heavy slide, it shows you each element on the left-hand side in the general plan, then supporting information, the appendices, And if you take a look under appendices, the evacuation study and the climate vulnerability analysis were two things that we did in year one. And both of those reports are regional. We included our cities, so they can use those also in their long-range planning documents. But the climate vulnerability analysis actually went to inform not only the health and safety element, but also you'll see it reflected in a number of the different elements, because it took a look at the ways that we are vulnerable to various aspects of climate change, and ways that we can become more resilient. And you'll see that reflected as far as goals and actions in like the public facilities and services. Because from that climate vulnerability analysis, we derived the fact that we are having more extreme weather events, and so we need to be able to provide for collection centers where people can come recharge during PSPSs, come during extreme heat events or extreme cold events to get into a safe environment. And then let's see, oh, okay, and then on the right-hand side just talks about every topic that's covered within each planning area element. Land use map. This is one of the more important things, I think, that we do. There are two maps that govern land use in Lake County. The first one is right there, the land use map. That talks about the general plan land use. So in our instance, in Lake County 2050, our LAPACs took a look at zoomed in sections of these land use maps and decided if they wanted to see any changes. So just for example, like Kelseyville moved medium to high density residential over near their schools because they are worried about safe routes to schools for the kids. So they said, why not put these houses, this housing, let's focus these parcels as an option for future housing development, so our kids just have to go across the street instead of walking down the sides of the road when everybody's driving their kids to school. Also, in Cobb, I think we were looking at different areas for more resort commercial or additional housing. And so there were some changes particular to Cobb that the LAPAC made, and those recommendations went to the board. They were all approved in concept by the board. And so we're going to take another look at future LAPAC meetings to make sure we got it right. Additionally, so this land use map from the general plan, since the general plan is the community's vision, after Lake County 2050 is done, adopted, and certified by the state, so like hopefully next year, 2027, we're going to start a different project that is updating the Lake County zoning map. And so the zoning map shows, is supposed to synchronize with the general plan land use designation map by law. And the zoning map is what a lot of people will look at when they're looking to develop their parcel. And it tells you stuff like setbacks, what types of uses. Is this a residential parcel or a commercial or industrial parcel? How big a building can I build there? How tall can it be? How far back from the road does it need to be? You know, does it have any colors? All of those things are described in our zoning code, and they follow the zoning map. And so that map will be updated to reflect the citizens' vision, which is the land use designation map. Next slide, please. Summary of draft elements. This is a lot of words. Basically, I'll summarize for you. Water resources talks about our lakes and our watersheds. We want to preserve them. We want to keep them clean and safe for not just the people who are here now, but the people to come. Ag resources is the way that we can protect, sustain, encourage, support, and enlarge our agricultural industry. Health and safety talks a lot about risks, again, either from the climate or from man-made hazards, and ways that we can work towards protecting our citizens and the environment. Geothermal resources, again, regulates our geothermal resources. Noise focuses a lot on the main noise generator, which in Lake County is our freeways and our roads. So it talks about ways that we can mitigate, develop in such a way that does not significantly increase the noise. Although noise, if you have taken a look at the EIR document, the Environmental Impact Report, which is really interesting and I totally recommend looking at it, does identify noise as one of the ways that one of the impacts to the environment that we cannot mitigate to less than significant. The EIR talks about the anticipated increase in commercial square footage, residential square footage, some industrial square footage, and based on that anticipated expansion, we're going to have an increase in noise that cannot be mitigated to less than significant. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. Next slide, please. Land use, we just covered that. It's a nice looking map. Talks about what we can do. Circulation talks about how we get from here to there within our county in the most efficient way, how we can preserve our streets, how we can increase efficient travel, and also multimodal travel. Open space conservation and recreation talks about the stuff that we really want to see preserved. Our wide open spaces, you know, those view sheds. One of the cool things, not so much in Cobb because we have more of a forested environment, but when you get out into Kelseyville, you can see far. We want to preserve that. Open space also means not putting buildings in floodplains. We want to conserve our resources, not just the mineral resources that we have, but also cultural and tribal cultural resources. And then recreation talks about how important our parks are to our communities. Next slide, please. Environmental justice, this is a brand new element for this, according to the state, and this chapter is very important because it focuses on communities that don't always get a strong voice in visioning processes. So it could be our low-income communities, senior communities, tribal communities, non-English speaking communities, a bunch of these different groups that inadvertently can be negatively impacted by future development through a community plan like this. Like say you put an industrial park that's, you know, pumping out smoke right next to your school or your low-income housing. These are conflicts that we really want to avoid in the future, and so we have an element that is focused on these groups that are sometimes overlooked to make sure that their voice is heard as well. And then lastly, public facilities and services talks about not just county buildings, but things that are, services that are provided, water, wastewater, electricity, gas, emergency response, fire and police, things like that. The environmental review. Year two, after year one was all about gathering all this input that fed that informed the updates to the general plan. And that became what is called the project description, which is essential in a CEQA process or an environmental analysis process, because you take that project description and look at a whole bunch of different ways that that project can actually impact your environment. And that took pretty much all of year two. That environmental review document, the EIR, is available on the lakecounty2050.org website and is out for public review on that website and at the state clearinghouse. We are looking for that input. It has a deadline of April 24th because it's going to take time. We collect all the input on the environmental impact report and we have to address it and respond to it, and that takes time. So that's why we're stopping the public comment period on April 24th, because it'll go that, and at the end of April, all the comments that we get on the general plan documents all goes back to the writing team, and we work on revising the public draft into a final draft. Go right ahead. Next steps. So don't worry if you haven't gotten your commentaries or your comments or your input in by the end of April, either on the Lake County or on the general plan documents or the environmental impact report. Don't worry, because there are still opportunities coming for input. So this month and through the end of April, we are visiting all of the municipal advisory committees. We're holding GPAC meetings, 3, and we're holding at least 2 LAPAC meetings for each planning area. And so all of those are opportunities to gather public input. So if you're watching this at home and you want to come join one of our meetings, everybody is welcome to all of these meetings. There are also ways to do your input online. So after you leave this meeting, you're like, I totally should have said this. Don't worry, because you can go to the lakecounty2050.org website, and there's a spot there to either take a survey and give your comments about the different documents, or actually just send us an email. We want to make sure that we collect and preserve every single piece of input, because it's all important. It's all part of the community vision. In May and June is when we take it all back internally and make those updates for the final edit. And then in fall, September and October, we will see notices for a planning commission and a board of supervisors meetings. Those are going to be noticed publicly through a 1/8 ad in the Record B. We also notify Lake County News, and hopefully we will be using administration office staff. Trevor's really good at pushing stuff out on social media, press releases, so we're going to hijack him and use him too. And now I would love to hear questions or input. Lay it on me. This is my favorite part.
Where do you live?
Personally, I live in Lakeport. So, but it's been like this really awesome opportunity to work. I have been the admin support for the LAPACs, so I have been at every single LAPAC meeting all around the lake, and it's been a fascinating process. I know you're not asking me about that part, but I just had to put that in there.
And everything you put on the screen is on
LakeCounty2050.org. Yes, thank you. Let's say it one more time. Lake County 2050, that's LakeCounty2050.org. That is the hub for this entire project. So our calendar of events, if you're thinking, oh, I need to catch that LAPAC meeting or that MAC meeting or the GPAC meeting, our calendar of events is on there. You could also sign up at that website to be on our email notification list. And you'll get the email blasts that we don't send out too many. We send out just as many as we need. But you will then stay informed that way as well.
Are there any highly controversial topics that you have addressed?
Ooh, I like that one. Nobody's asked me that before. Highly controversial. You know, sometimes the land use designation changes can be controversial. One of the big changes that didn't come from LAPACs, came more from the department, was changing the paper parcel land use designation. We've got over 10,000 what we call paper parcels. They're substandard older subdivision parcels. They were created just by writing property descriptions. They were created in the 30s and 40s, and you can't develop on them. But the land use designation is suburban reserve, rural residential, or rural lands that all says, come build a house here. And so historically, this has been a problem in the community, because people are buying these properties thinking they can develop them, and they get here and you can't even find it. And so what we're proposing this time is changing the land use designation from something that says you can build a house to public facilities, which says this is a good spot for trails or preservation of open space, things like that. That I anticipate will generate some robust discussion. My pleasure. Thank you. Hey, Tom. Oh, sorry. I'm not running the meeting. If you guys want to call on people, I don't want to take over your stuff.
How does code enforcement fit into this? And my comment is, I gave up on them a long time ago, and a suggestion, I don't know if it fits in here, but if they would just tell people, don't hold your breath, or that sort of thing, you're on the list now, so so you're not waiting to see if they do something. So anyway, does that fit in here at all?
I appreciate the question part of your question. So code enforcement is more in the zoning code, because it all works together. The general plan is what the community says they want. We want safe routes to school. We want to keep our rural character. We love our residential neighborhoods. We really support small businesses, things like that. That gets rolled into the zoning code, and also other areas of the municipal code. Code enforcement works through Chapter 13 in the municipal code, and it enforces the zoning code also, as well as a number of other health and safety codes. So not exactly, they won't be listed out specifically in an element like this, but they do rely on this, because they work on the zoning code, which is the actual mechanism that we use to roll out the general plan.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks,
Yeah,
Tom.
good.
I assume that, excuse me, the local meetings for each jurisdiction that are coming up will have a little more detailed area map.
I'm going to get some zoomed-in maps for the next LAPAC meeting. Yeah,
Perfect, thank you.
yeah, my pleasure.
I do have a question for you about sort of riffing a bit on the controversy piece. How do you weigh public comment that's conflicting? When you've got public comment that's like, I want this versus something completely different. And how do those conflicting elements or those conflicting comments get weighed?
I haven't seen a lot of them. Well, actually, it's the exact opposite. I have been struck by how much we have in common and how much our priorities are pretty straight across the board. However, if we did have, we do have a conflict in a couple different planning areas specific to the land use designations. Like the LAPAC said, we want to see this be used for agriculture. Or we don't like ag here, we want to see this for commercial. And because this affects people's properties, we had a direct mailer to all property owners that had parcels that were part of the LAPAC recommendations for land use designation changes. We mailed it all to them to let them know you're part of this, and had an open house for them with all these big maps and took all their input. And some of them submitted letters that said, I disagree with this for my property, and here's why. And those letters have been sent to the LAPACs for further discussion, and they're also going to be included with the board. So when there is a direct conflict like that, the deciding body is the board. So I'll let them take it. Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, my pleasure.
Oh, sure.
Is there any place in the general plan that addresses the kind of long-term issue of food security and looking to create, I know that there's some kind of board-level advisory council to promote more local food agriculture. Is that addressed in the
Yeah,
general
we
plan?
just had a meeting today. And not we, like I'm on it, but I was there. I would look in the agricultural element because we're looking in that area for diversification of ag uses, encouragement of food security. I would look there.
Good.
I'm guessing, though. I can't remember, I can't see it in my head, but that's where I think it would probably be.
I also saw some local and food security type language in the local area plan for Cobb. Pretty sure it's there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Who were
This
the
actually brings up a good point. The whole reason why I'm here, and I told this to the LAPAC meeting earlier, is that, you know, we brought on this great planning firm to help us with a lot of the writing and organization and the website, but I count on our staff, our local staff, and as kind of like the local experts, because we all live here. But I look at the LAPACs and I look at the communities. You guys are even more of an expert than I am because you live here. And so that's why we're going to all of these meetings, because I really need you to have input and to tell me what you're thinking and to tell me if we've got it right, if we've missed something, if we've got something wrong. It's a need. It's not just like, you know, I'm just doing this for fun. No, I really need you.
Is this group the local group that you've been working with for this
This
section?
is the Municipal Advisory Committee, the Cobb Area Council. We had a meeting earlier with the Local Area Plan Advisory Committee, and we have those rosters available online that identify who's members. But at LAPAC meetings, it's not really like a pseudo judicial body. It's more of a round table. And so we do have members that have been assigned or appointed by the board because of their backgrounds and expertise. But everybody that attends that meeting has input that's valuable. This is good. This is great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Please take a look and join us at future LAPAC meetings or at any meeting that we have between now and October. Thanks.
I just wanted to express our appreciation for the incredible work that Community Development Department has done. I've seen a lot of general plan updates in other counties. Some of them just drag on and get bogged down, and this has been a model of intelligent design and inclusive consultation with us. And just as kind of a planning nerd myself, I feel this is I feel this is a great example. I'm very, very grateful to your leadership and the Community Development Department's work on this. I think it's going to be a fantastic plan.
Here,
Thanks,
here.
Elliot.
Yeah.
I'd like to sort of give a little teaser for the next item. We have taken advantage of public meetings like this during the Lake County 2050 to sort of tack on other things that need public input. Like everybody talked about the climate vulnerability analysis, the climate adaptation plan, the housing action and implementation plan. So tonight, Lisa's piggybacking on this opportunity to talk about this March project that we have going on for pro-housing designation. It's an application or a certificate, kind of a designation done by the state that will benefit us as far as qualifying for grants to develop housing in the future. And I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Do you want to announce when the next LAPAC meeting for Cobb area is?
March 30th?
30, I have to look at it too. March 31st at 3:30, right here.
Well done, Kathy.
Little
Thank
red.
you.
Sure.
Awesome.
All right, thank you, Maria. All right, Lisa, it's all yours.
Good evening. Lisa Judd. I'm the Deputy County Administrative Officer for Housing. I want to thank you for allowing me to present tonight, and I also want you to bear with me because, like Maria, this is our 4th night in a row, and I'm a morning person, so I'm trying to do the best that I can here. And I do kind of want to preface this with the pro-housing designation, what that is and what it isn't. And we know with housing, there's a lot of complexities in housing, and based on yesterday's evening, I just wanted to point out originally that this is about a designation, kind of like a certification that the county can achieve. And it does not pertain specifically to subject matter like mobile home parks that is very dear to us and very important to us, and we're addressing that in a separate topic. We have an ad hoc committee that we're addressing that. So just want to preface that tonight, that this is pro-housing designation. What is that? The California Department of Housing and Community Development is putting forth an initiative to have local jurisdictions do things that will create and incentivize housing. So anything that we can do to facilitate development, reduce barriers within the legal boundaries, and incentivize that development is what they're looking for. And there's a multitude of ways that we can go ahead and do that, and we'll start with the next slide. I don't know about anyone else, I can't read that, but it's too small for me. So the pro-housing designation, again, is going to allow us basically funding opportunities, and there's different ways to get there, and the funding opportunities I think are on the next slide here, so we'll go ahead and go to that one. Oh, okay, maybe not. Why be pro-housing? So basically the items that are listed there are the different types of grants that we could apply for. The state originally had it kind of as a carrot to dangle to say, hey, if you do these things, then we'll give you a competitive edge, so you'll get more points towards housing. We do live in a rural area, and we have our competitors are kind of the bigger cities and things like that, or counties, and they have a whole slew of staff. So this helps us to be able to be competitive. One of the reasons why we're kind of pushing this through the end of March and we're trying to get our application in is because we have something called the Pro-Housing Incentive Program, which allows us potentially to get up to about $750,000 for the county. So that is something that we definitely don't want to miss out on the opportunity. In this federal landscape, there's very few funding opportunities, and housing is really dependent on kind of having that, even a small part of the capital stack to make it happen. One of the things that that we can do with those funds is to have them go to the Regional Housing Trust Fund. So in December of 2024, we were able to establish the Lake County Regional Housing Trust Fund. and it is in its infancy stages, so we are currently trying to get more money into that. And that board is meeting on a monthly basis so that we can do different housing things in the community. And that administrative board is comprised of Lakeport, Clear Lake, and the county representatives. So that is one opportunity with this pro-housing designation that we could put funds into that regional housing trust fund. The application process itself also helps us because it basically looks at the things that are going to streamline processes, and we're looking at the 4 different areas there: our favorable zoning and land use, which we've talked about a lot this evening, acceleration of housing production timeframes, how to make those shorter timeframes makes for development that matters a lot. Reduction of reduction of construction costs and development costs, and providing financial subsidies. So these 4 categories aren't something that I created. These were from the state of California. So they basically have an application with the 4 different areas, and underneath that, they have a bunch of different ways that we can attain the pro-housing designation. We have to have so many points. We have to have 30 points at a minimum. And we have to have points in each of the categories. But the nice thing is that we can tailor and pick which ones we want. So the state doesn't tell us you have to do everything on this list. We looked at this, and when we did the Housing Action and Implementation Plan, also piggybacked with, and I should back up and say that community development worked very closely with me, so Maria and Shannon Walker-Smith were an integral part of this. So we've been working together to get this pro-housing designation. And part of that is we looked at the element, like the housing element that we have already, and that we look at the Housing Action and Implementation Plan. So the first step was kind of to look and see, what do we already have? And so how many points do we have? And what do we want to have? The more points we have, the more competitive we are. And we can, it's a fluid situation, so as time goes on, we can update it and add more things and be more competitive. What I was sharing with the groups is that the first year, the good news is the first year that you attain your pro-housing designation, you have a higher prioritization on getting funding. So our chances are so much higher this year than any other year because it will be our first year of hopefully attaining this pro-housing designation. And then going on, we'll continue to do things to make ourselves more competitive from a point perspective. Okay, next slide. So obviously this is part of our public participation process. We are really wanting to get input from everyone, and part of that participation process is a survey, and I know everyone's kind of tired of surveys, but I promise you ours is short. It is about 5 questions, and you're also always willing to put in more comments if you have anything else that you'd like to see, and you can always email me as well. I love this kind of forum because I sat in on the LAPAC before this, and you have some really intelligent, wonderful conversations here, and those things are really helpful for us. And it also is helpful in general with housing. So I think the Housing Action and Implementation Plan, hopefully you've seen it or heard it. It is a 400-page document, but it is online and it has different segments, so you don't have to read the whole thing in case you're bored. But there are some interesting things just like this that Maria was talking about, goals and strategies to look at. And as, again, that's a living document. It's not meant to be shelved, something that we can come back to and change over time so it has meaning for our counties. And it's something that the housing element, it's going to be foundational for the housing element. So it's separate from it, but a lot of the work that needed to be done for the housing element was already done in that. And now this is another part of that process. One of the goals in our housing action plan was to do this pro-housing designation. And I think next slide. There are a few threshold requirements. You have to have an active housing element. There are a number of other things. One of them is also to have a homeless encampment, 1-page summary. And then again, the scoring requirements, there has a threshold, like I said before, of 30 points. There's the 4 categories, and there's also enhancement categories. So things beyond, above and beyond, we can also get additional points for. And again, this comes back to all the acronyms PIP, which is Pro Housing Incentive Program. That's the funding portion. So there's the designation that we're hoping to attain, and then we're also putting an application for the funds that come along with that designation. And those are many of the different ways. I mentioned the Housing Trust Fund, but there are other things that could be done with that as well, if that's what the board would like. And that is my presentation for this evening. I hope everyone has a little flyer, has a lovely QR code, which I think there's so many of, but it also has a link here. I am happy to also email so that you have this in a format so you can just click on the link. And I also have some more links that I could send out with that. Things like we have a new economic development and housing web pages at clearlylakecountyca.com. And so that's something that we recently released. It might be interesting. There's a link for the Housing Action Implementation Plan, housing web page, and administration. So a bunch of different links that it seemed like from previous meetings that might be helpful for folks, including the application itself that shows what the different categories are in case you're curious. And
All right, thank you. Are there any questions?
It's obvious, it's a lot to digest. It seems like a lot of very technical issues. So for example, if I'm a housing developer looking to develop housing, how would this help me?
That's a great question. One of the things on here in the categories is developer incentives and things like that, and that is something that we have identified in the Housing Action and Implementation Plan as a priority. It is something that I'm currently working on. We're looking at different things like having a point of contact. I know a lot of developers that I've talked to have said that it's very confusing and complex to deal with all the different entities when they're trying to make development. We want to do things to make us developer friendly because we do have a lot of barriers, construction costs, and developers can go to our adjacent counties and potentially get more return on their investment. So we definitely have to do all the things in order to be developer friendly.
So basically, you'll just have, so anything other than having a kind of a county, single point of contact? Because that, I mean.
It could be developer incentives too. We're looking at that as well.
Such as?
It could be anything from monetary incentives or reductions in some way. So those are the things that we're looking at.
So if I've got a development program, I could apply for kind of funding assistance or potentially development fee help?
Those are great examples, yes.
Great, thank you.
Getting the cart in front of the horse a bit here, but say this all comes through and you do get some grants for development, will there be any local sort of preference for the local developers? So you just don't have a ton of outside developers coming in and throwing up some buildings to make a...
I mean, I absolutely think that's a great suggestion. We don't have that. That is something that we can incorporate into the, not the pro housing designation application because there's not a space
Correct.
for that, but certainly on our own policies, especially if there's support and board support for that. I can't imagine why they wouldn't. It would be help our local communities.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Margot?
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. If Lake County gets this grant, are there projects already selected in the pipeline that will be greenlit? Do you have projects that are shovel-ready already in the housing action implementation plan? Thanks.
I love that question because that is one of the things that when I first came to the county, I've noticed is that there's this the chicken before the egg type of thing. So as soon as a grant would come out, they would want it to be shovel ready. Well, it's not shovel, but they needed the funding first, right? So they need the funding piece. I think in answer to your question, one of the things that the Housing Trust Fund is looking at is getting those in the pipeline. So instead of notice of funding availability, an opportunity, that's one of the things that we're looking at so that we have those in the pipeline already. But as far as your question, I just want to make sure I'm answering your question. are these funds already earmarked? The only thing that we're looking at is a possibility, and again, it would be up to, is possibly the Regional Housing Trust Fund, because they have that flexibility. Any other questions?
All right, any more questions? Doesn't look like, thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Okay, we're gonna continue on. Our next order of business was the storm season update with the weather. I imagine it's starting to get a little closer, so Chief Duncan?
Yep, no storm update. We don't have, look forward to some rain. We have copter training that's going to be starting on the 23rd of May. Did you have something, Mary?
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Sure, thanks.
Copter training starting on Monday the 23rd, so next Monday. We'll be setting up a notification group for neighbors in that area for flights of the helicopter, so I should have more information by the next meeting on how to get on that group, that those are interested and impacted. We want to be able to get notice to them of that. Our annual firefighter seasonal hiring has begun. We've also started on our siren repairs around the community. So the Cobb siren has not been activating recently. The repair person came today. The system has water intrusion. Several of the electrical components have failed. So we have parts on order and getting that back in service. And just as a reminder, with the really nice weather we've had on burn piles, burning requires an adult that's capable of suppressing the fire if they're doing burning. So please stay near your pile and be prepared with tools and water to extinguish that if you need to. And that is it for my report.
All right, thank you, Chief Duncan. I think we're gonna have a quick treasurer's report.
Yeah, I didn't have time today to prepare a treasurer's report, but I can tell you that probably the only transaction that we've had in the last month is a $164 payment to the storage unit where we have the Cobbler Festival materials and the materials also from the old hub. Other than that, I'm not aware of any other transactions, and I'll have a full report for the next meeting.
All right, thank you, Chris. Next, we're moving on to committee reports. We're gonna start with our Firewise communities.
Hi, Magdalena Valderrama. I have one of two regional Firewise community coordinators in the county. The other one is John Owl in the Rivieras. I'm also the operations director for SSCRA, so you'll be hearing some things that are related to Firewise that we're providing help around. And I also lead the Siegler Springs Firewise community. That's out on Loch Lomond Road. So we're now working, I mentioned that we had been awarded the PG&E Vegetation Management Grant. Everybody in Lake County that had applied for one of these was awarded. The one here for the Cobb area is for 2 fire breaks surrounding the subdivision of Loch Lomond, and then at the other end of Loch Lomond Road, the neighborhood of Perini. So we're basically securing the entry points, the transit points for that entire road, which is a county lifeline, really. And we're working on the details. There's more details now in creating the contract with PG&E than I've ever seen them. The SSCRA, the Siegler Springs Community Redevelopment Association, has done 2 grants with PG&E before, and the mapping requirements are more stringent. The report formats are more involved, so we're just working all of those kinds of things out. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an infographic, if you can imagine this. We're basically addressing 17.8 total acres for those 2 fire breaks and the neighborhood in Perini. and that will immediately protect 270 homes and 2 subdivisions and the neighborhood I was mentioning, and basically protect we have more than 1,000 daily travelers that use Highway 175, and then the hundreds of people that use the Loch Lomond Road and Siegler Canyon Road. So those will be, there's some start of protection. We're also planning, as SSCRA, to apply for a California wildfire prevention grant that will kind of come up, I think, in the summer. Chief, do you know? Yeah. So we plan to use some of that money to actually work on the Loch Lomond Road, because I think someone here mentioned we've got Scotch broom scratching vehicles. It's so overgrown. And we've already left a message with Lars Ewing at Public Works to kind of get that moving. The Siegler Springs Firewise community itself has started to make use of the AmeriCorps crews. We've got 3 sets of neighbors who are working together to bring those crews in. And for anyone who's not familiar with this, every year there is a group of young folks, about up to 8 people. They're in their late teens, early 20s, and the North Coast Opportunities Agency brings them over. They're allowed to do hand clearing. They don't operate chainsaws. They're not rated for that, but they will come and remove debris from the gutters and around your house and driveways. I know we have a lot of long driveways in these mountainous areas. So Siegler Springs has started that. The REMM Firewise, which Cindy Leonard heads, thank you. That's Rainbow Estates, Meadow, and Mesa, thank you. They're having their annual meeting on Saturday, May 2nd. And that's a good day for everyone to know about here, because that is National Wildfire Preparedness Day, sponsored by the National Fire Protection Association, which is a nationwide 501c3 that sponsors the whole Firewise community program. So that's a good day to get together. You can check out the Facebook page of the REMM Firewise community. They're going to start at Rich Cortola's house, for those of you who know Rich. And then Loch Lomond, which is headed up by Walter Bruno, or is it Bruno Walter? I always get them mixed up. Bruno? Bruno Walter, thank you. They are having also a cleanup day on May 2nd. They distributed free paper lawn bags so that people could collect their leaves and things like that, and they're already telling their residents no plastic bags. They distributed the paper bags at the March 14th fundraising dinner. It's one of the few non-HOA types of groups that we have in Lake County that do their own fundraising. And they're asking that if residents would please sign up by Monday, April 27 to participate, then all the volunteers that are part of this will help load up all your debris. Then we've got Gordon Springs has 2 fire drills with a water truck every year. They're another of our model Firewise communities. I know Anderson Springs is gearing up, but I don't have their details. We have two Firewise communities that still need help with getting some updated leadership. And we could use some of those heavy-duty weed pullers. There's a bunch of projects that need those, they're called puller bears. If you get them from Canada, weed wrenches, if you get them locally, but they're not as strong as those polar bears. So if you have any to lend, that would be great.
I think we have some
In the
that are
storage?
at the fire, at the Loch Lomond Firehouse. I think that's where they landed.
Are they stored there?
I think they're stored there, yeah.
Okay, we'll check in with the,
From the
Yeah,
hub, yeah,
the
they
hub.
were in the hub, and I think they landed at the Loch Lomond Firehouse.
So we can locate those, we should have a couple of them.
Yeah.
oh,
Because they were
fantastic.
to loan out at the hub.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And,
Yeah, sounds right.
and then in April, April 24th, there will be a Firewise Summit. It's the first in the county. I see a lot of people have already been signing up, and that'll be from 9 to 2. They had to extend the hours because there was so much new information as well as so much interest. It's going to be pretty chock full at the Buckingham HOA Clubhouse, or whatever they call that.
What's the date again?
April 24th.
Thank you.
Friday.
And then in May, a shout out to the Red Bud Fire Safe Council, which is being formed in Clear Lake. They are going to hold a Firewise Community Wildfire Expo. So Chief Cepeda has gotten in touch with me, and we'll see if anybody would like to put up a table there. They're going to have all kinds of exhibitions and demonstrations. One thing I hope to talk with him about is how we've done it here in Cobb, where we created occasions for neighbors to talk to each other and organize with each other. So that'll be that's more people coming together, and Lake County keeps moving on. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Magdalena.
I have a communication.
Okay, so I think that covers the Firewise. Let's move on to our Communications Committee.
So the Cobb Alert Net, we're having about 25 more or less weekly check-ins. And big news is we're helping Middletown to explore creating their own similar radio network. And as always, radios are available. Write to cobbalertnet@gmail.com. That's the spiel.
Thank you, Kathy. Next, let's go to Forest Health Committee.
Good evening, I'm Elliot Hurwitz. I'm the chair of the Forest Health Committee and the director of the Seagull Springs Community Redevelopment Association, which has taken on leadership of the new Cobb Mountain Community Wildfire Protection Plan, or CWPP. I've been reporting about this for a year or so, but we're definitely out of park. We had our first Forest Stewardship Committee meeting at the end of February on the 27th, where we had a record-breaking attendance of folks really looking at all the issues we're going to be attending to in this CWPP, one of which is to establish a formal working group, which will be the formal official advisory body for this. Yes, we've got the Cobb Area Council Forest Stewardship Committee, which is open to everybody, and we have large and diverse attendance in that, but we also need to have, in order to be a qualified plan, a formal working group, and that will consist of a formal CAL FIRE representative, who's be Chief Chris Aragon. Also on that working group will be David Thiessen representing the Friends of Boggs Mountain, Richie Booker representing the Boggs Mountain State Demonstration Forest. We have a representative from the Lake County Resource Conservation District. Jake will be on there representing the Cobb Area Council. We will have formal representation from both the Middletown Rancheria. We had a good meeting with them last week with their environmental protection group, and they will be designating a person to be part of that, as well as tribal elder from Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians, Ron Montez. And we've also in discussion with a couple of major local landowners to be part of that. So that's going to be our formal working group. in addition to that, as we've been proceeding, we also have brought on a principal technical consulting firm, Wildland Resource Management. If you were at the last Cobb Forest Summit we did last June, you may remember Carol Rice was there. She's the principal, deeply experienced in doing community wildfire protection plans. And one of the first things we've done is we actually beginning to put together a GIS system just for Cobb that will actually have all of the data that will be hosted on the SSCRA website. So you'll be able to, it's like going into the county GIS where you could look at parcel maps and supervisorial districts, and this will have all of the various, I have the fire history, have all of the terrain, it will have all of the areas that we are going to use to organize our wildfire protection plan. We've just established this, recognizing that the boundary that we started with is kind of a political boundary. It's the boundary of the Cobb Area Council, but we talked with had a fairly in-depth conversation with our the technical specialists, and they suggested that we're also going to include a little bit of extra territory pretty much around the little downstream of Coal Creek, where it really makes sense to look at the fire impacts from that. And we'll be bringing that map to the next meeting of our formal working group for their ratification. We're also, what's really exciting to me is that we're going to be looking to develop our own detailed vegetation map of the Cobb Mountain area. There are various data sources that we'll be able to pull down from the ether, federal data, state data, but a lot of we don't know how old that data is, how well it reflects post-fire conditions, how large the resolution of that is, because in our geography, quarter of a mile or a couple hundred yards can make a difference in terms of its fire vulnerability. So one of the key mechanisms we're going to use for that is we are initiating a volunteer program, and we're calling our Cobb Mountain Citizen Science Forestry volunteer program. And what we'll be doing is looking to get 12 people from the community who are willing to spend a half day on a Saturday every 2 months. So what we will do is our technical team, including our tribal educators, will be training people for how to go out and look at the landscape and compare that to what the databases are. So we really are hoping that people are, we've got about 5 or 6 of those slots already filled, and if you'd like to participate in it, please go to our website, which is sscra.org, and you'll see a place where you can sign up to enroll in that volunteer program. We're hoping to get that filled within the next month so we can begin training. Basically, we'll be fielding teams of 3, each with a ruggedized tablet with a way in which you can look at the landscape. And we think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity if you're into the Cobb ecosystem and want to learn more about the forest and learn more about the terrain and learn more about fire and fire vulnerability and fire protection. It's going to be a lot of fun, put it this way. You actually get out into the land, bring some tablets, and go and look at the landscape. We've hired a part-time volunteer coordinator for that. We're very lucky to have Jessica Lytle, who's going to be doing all the scheduling and making sure we have access to the land and making sure the data gets translated properly into the GIS and helping everybody kind of go through all this process. So if you sign up, you'll be hearing from Jessica. We are, the program for this is a 2-year exercise. And it's very exciting for me that it actually is coincident with the update to the general plan. So we're going to be looking to see how we can make synergies between this Cobb Mountain Wildfire Protection Plan and the Cobb Mountain Local Area Plan. And we'll be looking for ways in which they should certainly be talking to each other and compatible with each other. And our goal is to bring the draft plan to this, to the Cobb Area Council a year from May. So we've got about 14 months to get to that point where we'll have the draft plan, we'll revise it, we bring it to CAL FIRE, has to be, is an official reviewer for this, at which point we present it to the county. And one of the reasons, just to remind folks, one of the reasons we're doing this, yes, it's great for us to learn and plan and prioritize, but once we have a completed and authorized local community wildfire protection plan, it qualifies us to apply for a significant pot of federal implementation funding. So that's the gold ring at the end of it. The next meeting of our Cobb Mountain, of the working group, was going to be on April 24th, but now I see it's actually the same date as this other big fire meeting, so it'll probably be the following Friday on May 1st. So stay tuned for that. Questions?
I have a question for you. You may have said it, but would you repeat how people can find out about the volunteer group and sign up? Yeah.
Right, you can go to the SSCRA website, which is sscra.org. As in Siegler Springs Community Redevelopment Association.
Is there a menu item?
It will be right on that homepage. You'll be able to, you'll look for the CWPP, click on that, it'll take you to, I think there's even a button for volunteer program. We'll have it right on our homepage.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Others?
All right, thank you, Elliot.
And Tom Slade, thank you, Elliot. I had some comments when I went to that meeting at, the Santa Cruz Mountain Climate Adept. Something came to mind, and I've been researching, I'll be starting my 25th year in mid-April, so there's no way, I can get into any of that. But it really struck me, we're going to adapt to climate change. And as far as I can tell, for the most part, I made a few, permafrost is thawing, methane cleth rates, the oceans are rising, scientists agree and all that. Well, that doesn't tell us anything, as far as I'm concerned, about where we are. And I made a few notes. For example, what about humidity trends, backscattering, evaporation rates, panned evaporation rates in Cobb? Diurnal temperature gradients. I think you'll find probably that our evenings or the nights don't cool off as much as they used to compared to the days. Ubiquitous white haze, but for example, like what about insect populations? I've heard we're in the 6th great mass extinction, maybe not having to do with climate adaptation, but I would think if that's true, I'm changing the topic for a second, that would be showing up here. But anyway, UV radiations, I'm the understanding that we're getting B and C UV. I don't know myself, but I've looked into this a lot. It doesn't make me right, but and more than anything, dimming, well, I have it over there, but there's a video called Dimming the Sun that came out from NOVA 20 years ago, and people found out that they're amazing, that in some places they were losing 10 and 15% of their sunlight, and they didn't even know it due to the aerosols in the sky, and you're probably hearing that word, air pollution, and I have good reason to think, but also related to that, I'm moving forward like really fast, the loss of sunlight from lingering, expanding, you've probably heard me say this before, jet trails that spread out and form man-made clouds. And so that's really what I want to, just very briefly, and I have about 50 hours of video from 2002, 3, and 4, and maybe 1,000 photographs from 2002, 3, and 4, and they're not of nothing. I didn't do it for, so very briefly, this is an example, and I'll pass it around. You can think what you want. But this is the kind of things, this was taken I think the 13th of March in Cobb. And we see this, and this you can watch typically. Now, some people might look at that and not think too much of it, but we see these things, and then they spread out and form this kind of stuff. It's very common for the weather to say it was cloudy or partly sunny, and it's this. And it's been going on for over 20 years. And so I'll pass that around. Here's an example that, of a trail I took. I have a lot of pictures that don't look like normal condensation trails to me. And this one I took across the street from the fire station In fact, here's the date, here's a small one. November 3rd, 2002. And you could look at that thing. In fact, these two pine trees are gone now. Those are the pine trees that are right by the propane tank at the gas station. Then that thing was from horizon to horizon. And then, is this the one? Yes. I went out to Carolyn, which is up the hill from near the top of Holbrook Hill. And this is the same trail going out towards, and you can see Seigler Mountain in there. This thing is huge, it didn't evaporate. And then I have it on Highway 175, where you start to drop down the hill, the long grade into Middletown, and you can see this same gigantic trail going way out there. And with Mount St. Helena on the other side, it goes on and on and on. But the fact is, it's there, and you can see we lose sunlight. And there have been times when I look out the window, I can recall my kitchen window, and it's a sunny day, and it's not very bright. And I go out, and the sky has all that hazy stuff that we're being told is all normal. And I'll pass this around too. My one-time colleague, Rosalind Peterson, she did a lot of things. In fact, if you Google her, on YouTube, she's really, you'll find a lot about her. She died in 2018, but she had this thing made originally about 20 years ago, and I have about 20 of them left. But if anybody, I'll pass them around, and you can look at them. But I mean, I have boxes and boxes and boxes of this stuff, and we're told everything is normal. Well, it isn't normal. And I mean, there's a lot of background information I could give you, but most of you can look up and you see we lose sunlight. If you look up, you can't miss it. And that would be my main point. So when we talk about adapting to climate change, it would be good for all, including me, to figure out what it is we're talking about. And thanks again.
All right, thank you, Tom. Let's move on to the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you. The Economic Development Committee met for the first time in a while on March 11th. And out of that meeting, we decided to review a number of documents so that we can begin to do some planning and thought around a number of things. But the primary document that we wanted to review was the Community Resilience and Development Strategy that we put together and adopted as this body in 2022. And it was essentially a 5-year plan, so we're about time to maybe reconsider it or how to move forward on some of those items. And within the meeting, we were also beginning to discuss how that resilience and development strategy might dovetail with any uses for the $48,000, $50,000 a revolving loan fund that we got from the San Francisco Home Loan Bank Association as part of a grant. So those conversations are continuing. The group is reviewing the documents, and as soon as everybody feels comfortable coming back together, we will call another meeting, and people are welcome to attend that. When we call it, we'll make it public. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that, Kathy?
No.
All right.
With that, I yield to our subcommittee of the Economic Development Plan, the Cobbler Festival Committee.
Yes. The Blackberry Cobbler Festival Committee did meet. We confirmed a date, August 29th, and what do I want to say? Inspired and encouraged by the upcoming egg hunt that the Lions Club, Mountain Lions, are having at Belmont Pines. We asked the question, what do we think it's going to look like in August? Can we have a festival? And the response was, go for it. So there might be a little bit extra volunteer mowing or whatever throughout the summer. So if you want to volunteer your mower and time, let me know. And we'll coordinate that with the folks over at Belmont Pines. But yeah, anything could happen between now and then. But for right now, we're planning for a positive outcome for August 29th.
Cool.
Number 6. Yes.
So what could happen that would keep that from happening?
Well, it is for sale.
I thought it was also foreclosed, because we need you on a microphone, sir.
Oh, right there to your right.
My name is Steve Reed, and I'm wondering what could happen
and she said, well, it could get sold, but also, isn't it in foreclosure right now?
You know, even that status is changing on the daily, as I understand. And I do not have a clear current answer to that question. I'm not privy to the information. So
Thank you.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess we're just hoping that, all parties are hoping that things will resolve, and I'm sure that just as when the property changed hands before, whoever happens to be in possession of it will be more than willing to support our community and be a part of just something I really am proud of being a part of too. So, cross your fingers. Thanks to everybody who's worked so hard on that these many years. Oh, by the way, Kim Riley has started posting on Facebook about it, and there's a lot of excitement, so it's hard not to get caught up in it.
It'll be,
Yeah.
The QR codes.
all right. I am going to make one comment. Moving forward with the future meetings, we are going to try to stick to the time for these individual committee reports, unless you're hitting on multiple areas like the Firewise, you'll have time extended, but comments and things like that, we are going to try to keep to the 3 minute per individual as stated in the agenda. Moving on to next month, April 16th, same time, same place, is our next Cobb Area Council meeting. Hope you all can make it, tell others, and try to pack the house here. It's always best to have as much communal input and support as we can. And with that, at 8 o'clock on the dot, we're going to adjourn this meeting.
How
All right,
about
thanks.
that?
Good job.